Hi guys, I'm just going to take you through a quick tutorial of how to create drag and drop activities using Google Slides. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to get a new slides template open. Now you can either do that in a few ways. You can click on your waffle and go into slides. Or my favorite shortcut is just typing in the Omnibox up here, slides.new. And that's going to bring up an unused document for you. I don't need any of these themes. They would change the themes of your slide. So I'm just going to click out of that. I don't want any of these titles. I want a completely blank document. So I'm going to highlight those and just delete that. If you wanted to change the layout of your document, you could make it like an A4 document or even bigger or smaller or whatever it happens to be. You can click on File, scroll all the way down to the bottom to Page Setup. Now, it's automatically set up as widescreen. For this activity, I'm going to set it as a custom A4 landscape document. So I'm just going to give the rough measurements of 29 by 21 centimeters. You do have the option of using inches, centimeters, points, or pixels, but in this instance, I want centimeters. And then we'll click Apply. So there I have my A4 size document. Now I'm going to be creating the map of Australia, where the kids are going to be labeling a map of Australia for our inquiry unit. So what I'm going to do here is set up my backdrop. So these are all the things that I don't want the kids to be able to move. And then later on, we'll focus on how to add in the movable objects. So the first thing I want to do is grab a picture of a map of Australia. Now you could go into Google and you could find a template, and that's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for a map of Australia. So by clicking on Insert Image here, I'm actually going to search the web, because by doing that, I'm going to get this little pop-up menu here, and it's going to search for all royalty-free images from Google. So Australian map. Once I've found the one, sorry, I might just type in Australian outline. There we go. Once I've found the one that I want, I can either click on it and click insert, or you can just drag and drop. Okay, once that's sorted, I'm going to resize it a little bit because I don't need it to take up quite the full screen. I'm going to need my labels, so I need space to have my labels. So I'm going to make it about this big, and I'm going to give them some instructions. So by clicking on this text box here, I can type in my instructions. So label the map of Australia. I can highlight this and change the font by clicking up here. There's heaps of fonts that you can add if you wanted to click on more fonts. These are some other ones that I've added. I'm just going to go ahead and choose one of those and increase the font size. Okay. So label the map of Australia. I'm popping that up here. If I wanted to add some further instructions, I can put in another text box here. And so label the states and territories of Australia by dragging names into the correct location on the map. And again, changing a different font. And we all love things centered. You can either go in and choose the centered alignment and making sure it's in the middle, or you can choose some of the shortcuts. So Control A selects it all, Control Shift and E will make it aligned in the middle. Then I've pretty much got everything that I wanted. If I wanted to add in a nice little Australian flag, I could repeat the process and find Australian flag. And just go ahead and pop that in there. make it a little bit smaller. So these are all the things that I do not want my kids to be able to move. Okay, I'm going to talk about how to add in the pieces later. But the first step, once you've got your background, you're going to go ahead and click on File, and you're going to download. Okay, you're going to download it as either a JPEG or a PNG image. Okay, for the purpose of this, I'm just going to use a JPEG. Now what it's going to do, it's going to download and head into your downloads folder. But what you can actually do, a cool trick, in a blank slide, okay, you can actually click on background to change the background. Choose the image because we're going to be setting this as our background and dragging it into the insert image part. And then you now have a background that no matter how hard the kids try, they can't move anything. So that's going to be step one, okay, creating the backdrop. Now what you're going to be doing is creating the labels that you want them to be able to move. Now for the purpose of this, I'm going to use a shape. Okay, and I'm going to click on shapes up here and I'm just going to choose a little box here. I'm going to adjust the size a little bit. And by double clicking, I can now enter text into there. So I'm going to add in my states. So we're going to start off with Victoria. My computer's very slow. I'm going to copy and paste. So I've got one that's the exact same size. And then I'm just going to type in New South Wales. Because I know I need more than two, I'm just going to copy both of them and paste them. We have Queensland, Northern Territory, whoops. I'm going to need more again. We have the Australian Capital Territory. Tasmania, South Australia, and Western Australia. Okay, now that I've got all of, whoops. Okay, apologies. Now that we've got all of them, we can change all of the font at the same time by highlighting all of those. And then you can go into font that you want and changing the size. And we can also click on the alignment, or you can use that Control Shift and E. Okay, I'm also going to change the color of all of them by clicking on Fill Color, just to make it something that'll stand out a little bit. And also change the border by clicking on this one here. Let's just go a black one, make it a bit thicker by clicking on the 3 lines here. Okay, so as you can see, I've now got my movable pieces. It's just a matter of now putting them into the position that you want the kids to be able to have. Probably a little bit squishy. So it's important to remember that this needs to be done when the kids are in editing mode, okay? They need to be viewing it like this, because if you were to click present, and I can't do that because otherwise it will stop recording. If you click on present, none of these pieces will actually be movable. So it's important to remember this is in editing mode. So then your students can go ahead and start to drag and drop these labels. And there you have it, a drag and drop activity where you are adding in labels. So for the next example, what I'm going to show you how to do is to create a drag and drop sorting activity. So for this one, I'm going to need a new slide deck. So I'm just going to click on this one and choose a blank slide. Another cool shortcut is to just click on the previous one and hit enter. And what you're going to need to do is first thing, again, you're going to create the backdrop. All right. Now for a sorting activity, I'm going to have 3 different columns. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Insert, and I'm going to go down to a table. You have the option of creating as many different columns and rows that you want, but in this instance, I'm just going to choose, I've got 3 categories, and I'm just going to choose 3 rows. Now that I have got my categories, I'm going to go ahead and resize that by clicking on the little dots. Okay, so this is going to be a word sort. So we're going to be sorting the A sounds into the correct columns. So we're going to have a short A sound, we're going to have a long A sound, and we're going to have the AR. Okay. If you want to center it, you can see that red vertical line. That's going to put that right in the middle of the page. Now I'm going to add in my instructions by putting in this text box up the top here. So we're going to get the kids to sort the A sounds into the correct columns. And highlight, everything would be Control A, and then we can choose our font and then increasing the size. Let's just give 36 a bell. And so if you wanted to increase the font, you can also use the Control Shift, and if you press the full stop button, full stop makes it increase, and the comma will make it decrease. Okay. And once again, I'm going to align it in the center. I will need to make that a little bit smaller so that it fits. There we go. I'm also going to need to make this font a little bit bigger. I do want to center it, so I'm going to do my Control Shift and E. I also want to put that in the middle, so I'm going to go to our align and put it in the middle, just so it's a little bit clearer. I'm going to change the color of it so that it stands out a little bit more. Let's use a nice purple. And I do actually also want to make the borders of my table stand out. So once again, I'll go to that border color and change the border weight just to make it a little bit thicker. Okay. And I'm just going to make these ones a little bit longer. All right, so now that we've got our columns, okay, we are once again going to set this as the background on a new slide. So the same process, we need to make this, because all these are currently movable, we want the kids not to be able to move them. So we're going to go File, Download as a JPEG or a PNG. It will appear in your Downloads folder and also the download bar down the bottom here. On a new slide, if you click on Background, choose the image that you want, which will either be an upload in your Downloads folder, or again, just dragging it from the bar into that area there. Okay. And now you can see you have got, once again, a background that the kids can't move. So next step is to, again, create your pieces that you want the kids to be able to move. So for this one, I'm going to insert a shape. You can also insert a text box. The difference between using a shape and a text box is that a text box will not have the outline in it already, and the shape will have an outline. I want them to have a nice outline, so I'm going to use this one again. Okay, so I'm going to give them their word choices. So their words can be, All right, so the word after. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Copy that. Control C and Control V are going to be the best shortcuts for copy and paste. Otherwise, right-clicking, copy and paste. Another word they can have, can be class. I'm going to copy these because I'm going to need more. I'm going to go cat, cake. I'm going to need a few more. Crab, flat, baby, and let's go plain. Okay, so once again we can highlight all of them to change the font at the same time for all of them. You could do them individually. Sizing, let's just go 36 and aligning in the middle and the center. And again, I'm going to change the color of them. Let's go yellow this time, the outline and the thickness. So now we have got the movable objects for the kids. They can once again just sort them correctly. And they have it, a sorting activity for the students to be able to do. So for the last tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a drag and drop activity with movable manipulatives. So for example, I'm going to show you how to make use pictures to make multiplication equations. So once again, in the same way, we're going to create our backdrop. I'm going to start off by just inserting a text box with our instructions. And our instructions are going to be create groups to show the multiplication equation. Okay, and I'm going to highlight that all and change our font using our Control Shift and full stop button. Okay, I want to actually make this part of a heading. So I'm going to increase the size of the text box and align it where I saw those red bars. And then I'm going to change the color. We'll make that a blue. And then I'm going to add in a text box with the equation. Let's say 4 times 6 equals. Okay. I'm just going to resize this a little bit. So they're going to be making the equation 4 times 6. And I'm just going to make that stand out a little bit more. Okay, I also want to give them further instructions. That's going to tell them to drag the counters into the boxes to show the answer, 4 times 6. And then I'm going to say type the answer in the box above. I'm going to need to create a box for them to be able to write in. First, I'm going to highlight all of this, and I'm just going to increase the size a little bit. It doesn't need to be super big. And then we're going to create the boxes for them to start off with. So I'm just going to have a couple of, let's go with a diamond. Okay, so there are going to be my boxes. I need the box for them to answer. Okay, so I'm just going to put in, I'm going to put in just a square box here. Need to make it a little bit smaller. And the kids will just be able to double tap and type in there. Okay, just going to jazz up our boxes a little bit. I'm going to highlight all of them. And we'll just change the color there and also the weight of our boxes. Okay, now what you're going to do is to create the manipulatives that you want. So we're going to, similarly to last time, we're going to insert an image from the web. I don't need an Australian flag, so we'll get rid of that. And I want to say, let's go an apple clip art. I'm actually going to type in transparent background because we don't want really any backgrounds to be shown. Okay, so let's go with this guy here. And obviously it's going to be way too big, so we need to resize it a lot until we have an object that is somewhat smaller. Okay, now at the moment, once they move one of them, that's obviously not going to be enough. So we need them to look like they're seemingly never ending. And the way that we're going to do this is by copying and pasting and stacking. Now, when you think about the fact that they're going to need 6 in one of these boxes, we're going to need to make it a bit smaller. So what you're going to do is you're going to copy and paste. So Control C and Control V are your best friends for this. So Control C is copy, Control V will paste it. Now at the moment they're not directly on top of one another, but you will want to align them. Now the best way to do this is to, it's a bit tricky at the moment because it's a red line on a red apple, but look for the red lines that intersect to show that they are perfectly aligned. Now you could do that one at a time, but if you've got a lot, it's going to take you a while. So now that you have 2 here, you're going to highlight that, obviously not with our square, and copy the 2 objects and paste them on top of one another. So now you have a total of 4 objects. And if we do the same, we're going to copy our apple, not our square, copy our 4 apples and paste our 4 apples. You now have 8 apples. And now we have 16 apples. Okay, and so you can tell it quickly increases if you are continually copying and pasting because you are copying a large amount each time. So once you feel you've done that enough, when the kids go to drag and drop, all they're going to see is the one object, but obviously it looks as if it never ends. If you kept going forever, this would actually disappear. Okay. You could use as many different shapes as you wanted. It's up to you, but for this particular instance, I've just shown you how to use one shape. So just continually copying and pasting and stacking it onto one another, and then the kids will be able to see that the answer is indeed 24. All right, so I hope this tutorial was helpful for showing you how to create 3 different types of drag and drop activities. You have your labeling type activities, you have your sorting type activities, and you have activities where you're creating duplicated drag and drop manipulatives.